Everyone, IAA Talks. My name is Shruti and I'm from PRM 39 and I'll be hosting today's session. We are going to have a talk by Mr. Shiv Kumar. He's from PRM 10 batch and is currently working as a social entrepreneur and co-founder at Catalyst. Today's topic is building and sustaining collaboratives for collective impact. This session will be moderated by Seema Shende from PRM 10, and I request all the attendees to mute except our moderator and speaker. Also, I would like to share that this session is getting recorded. So, without further ado, let's start this session. Over to you, Seema.
Okay, thanks, Shruti, and thanks everyone who's on this call. Uh, it's absolute pleasure to host this session along with you, uh, where the speaker is a good friend and my batchmate from IRMA, Shiv. 90, we passed out in 1991, and that seems just the other day. The 33 years have passed. Now, in these 33 years, each one of us have had our own journeys. And we are here to speak about what Shiv has done with his. A little bit about myself. I spent my last 30 years in the corporate world. But the first 3 years, I think I can safely say that I did my stint with the development sector. I was working with RVMS, which is NDDB's project, and KOF. Post that, of course, last 22 years at Mumbai, and I'm better known or better identified by my stint at Kotak, and before that with Reliance. With that as a short, brief introduction about myself, let's jump on to Shiv. Now, for Shiv, for those of us who know him since campus, 5 things defined Shiv. Maybe 6, but I'm just zeroing down on 5. Yeah, and we'll see how these 5 things have continued with him in his journey today. So I think first was coffee. I've just put it in some kind of priority order. It could change. So first was coffee. Yeah. Second was technology. Third was computers, and technology computers could come together. Fourth was finance and numbers. And the last but not the least was cycling. And I think all of this continues to be a part of his life today. Shiv and 2 of our other batchmates, Major Ashok and Raghu, started. Shiv actually started off in KOF along with Major Ashok and Raghu, and I was also working with them for a couple of years. And they broke off in 1994, and they started this management consulting firm called Catalyst Management Services, as it was called then. It continues to be called CMS in short today. I think over the last 30 years, these guys have done something brilliant, and they have stuck together. Catalyst today, the way I see it from outside in, is a well-respected global firm. Shiv and Raghu are known names and known voices in the development world, and that brings most of us in the PRM 10 batch and others perhaps great joy to see their success. I just want to jump straight into our conversation today and invite Shiv to introduce himself and what does CMS stand for and what has been his inspiration when he set it up in 1994. Shiv.
Seema, thank you. Feels like chatting back again in IRMA to have this conversation. Thank you very much. Just to remind you, you are one of the first signatories of CMS. You and Ashok signed the deed. So thank you for setting us off on that journey, which still continues. Before I start talking about myself, I just want to take this moment for making a special big birthday wish to Jayan Mehta. Jayan, thank you for joining us. And, all the very best. I know there is Atul and others on the call from the 10th batch folks. Show your love through emojis or whatever it is. I know you're banned from talking, but show your love to Jayan. Jayan, lovely to see you here.
Shiv, sorry to interrupt, but I would like to ask Jayan if we can go to the ice cream parlor and have one ice cream on him.
Yep, he is the king of it. So anytime he can summon it to his office, and he's sitting right in his office. Jayan, have ice cream in our name. I'm sorry to have missed coming in person, but happy birthday, dear. Right. So, Seema, coming back to your question, I think the inspiration to start CMS was very funnily a cockiness that we managed to turn around, and you were there, turn around a cooperative which was into huge losses, 22 crores in minus. We were this 20 plus who got thrown into the job. 3 layers of management quit because there was no money to pay salaries. And then we were literally begging NDDB to give us another month's salary. And that is when we were all thinking, oh, we got the highest paid job in IRMA and we landed in a real frying pan, right? And then in 2 years, we managed to turn that cooperative around, wipe out the losses. And today it has 500 crores in terms of corpus, which it has built. And Seema, you played a massive role in building a brand, Safal. Anybody living in Bangalore will know Safal is the default brand for edible oil in this beautiful city of Bangalore. So I think once we finished that, we had the stupid notion that we have turned around one cooperative, we can turn around every cooperative. That is that cockiness which Age and IRMA provides, right? I think very, very quickly we found that was a completely false assumption. Nobody was willing to pay. Nobody thought we had credibility. And pretty much we were down to our last 15 rupees. And that's when we said, I think better we work with corporates. So we did a couple of market research and we got very, very bored. And we said, let's get into solid social development. Let's work with the ActionAid. Let's work with Myrada. I think that's where our journey began on institutions. So we still believe that building institutions which work with people, helping them succeed, whether it's about designing their programs or projects, if it is deciding about their designing or implementing some of the programs, there's a huge gap between what they say and what they're able to do. That is what we call as implementation fidelity in today. And the third is evaluation and research, which is what my colleague Raghu is very well known for, right? So we worked on design, implementation, fidelity, and evaluation for the longest period of time. And we got bored with that too, right? Because we wanted to work with real people directly. And that's where we started our not-for-profits, Swasti Vritti, Green Foundation. They all came about not through some grand plan. I think they all evolved organically, Gautam, as you were saying, on the, following nature is not operating like an organization, but operating like an organism, right? And it's a big difference, right? So we evolved and we continue to evolve and pivot. So yeah, that's our story, Seema. I don't want to bore colleagues on this call, and lovely to see KK also joining.
Yeah, so they've been kind to, they all want to hear you talk. So I want to now, I think that's the journey CMS has had has been inspiring and full of learning. But that's for another day. I think let's go straight to the topic that we're talking about, which is collaboratives. What is a collaborative? I mean, for a person like me who is not from now anymore from the development sector, I only hear this stuff. But for someone like you who's actually working in this area and doing this in a sustained manner, help us understand what is a collaborative and why. What are the examples? What kind of examples can we see?
Okay, so let me break it down a little bit. I think if if Jayan is selling milk to people who need milk and milk products, right? That's one way to look at it, right? And then doing that thoroughly and at scale is one way to do it. But if you dive deeper into Jayan's work, he has understood the entire supply chain, right from animal feed to procurement to storage to processing to packaging to marketing, and then that's what we call as a complex adaptive system, right? It's continuously and dynamically changing, but at the same time there are patterns to it, right? And the Amul success story is about being able to orchestrate that complex adaptive system, right? Now, one format to do it is Amul model, which we all know, which occupies that position, but has taken a genius like Dr. Kurian to conceptualize it, and hundreds of soldiers and leaders like Jayan to actually make it work, right? But in social sector, let's say we talk about child marriage, right? We can't use exactly the Amul model, right? Even Amul model in all the formats have also not been a success, right? Whether it's salts or F&B or whatever it is. So if you take a girl child not going to school and actually getting married, and that has to change, you have to work on gender, you need to work on parents, you have to work on multiple things. So it's a system change, and system change cannot be done by any one organization. And that's where collaboratives become important, right? So the need is that if you recognize you're working in a complex adaptive system, then you can't take one organization and solve it. Now, the other thing which I want to provide is, in this world, we can compete, right? We can coordinate, we can partner, right? We can collaborate, or we can unify, right? Now, all of these are, to me, options, right? We can compete with each other. Let's say I'm a consulting firm, Sattva is a consulting firm. I can compete with them, right? Or I can say I will coordinate. If you look at the 5 big consulting firms in social development in the US, they have coordinated and they don't compete with each other. They've chosen areas to work on, right? That's another way to look at it. The third way is actually to partner. Let you and me do something together. Let 2-3 organizations do something together. But then collaborate is at a system level where there is a canvas of things which need to happen, and who will do what is collaboration. And if I were to put it simply, I would say collaboratives have 5 things: roles, responsibilities, rules, resources, and results. And we should start from the result. What do we want to achieve together, right? And there has to be some common high purpose, right? Not just my organization expanding is not a higher purpose. There has to be a value framework in which 1 + 1 is equal to 11, not 2, not 3, right? And there is an ideation, action, learning, and celebration, which continuously happens. Ideation, action, learning, and celebration, right? Only when these things happen together, I will call it a collaboration and a collaborator. And the next level is unify, which is all of us coming together and our organizations merging for whatever reason, if it is required, right? There's a very interesting theorist I follow, and he's currently the advisor to the UAE government, to the Prime Minister, and he said it very beautifully. He said all of these are forms of competition. Sorry, all of these are forms of collaboration, including competition. Even in competition, there is collaboration because you're watching, you're learning, you're pushing your price down, pushing your price up. So in summary, I would say, the whole theory around collaborative is fundamentally around wanting to achieve something which no one organization can do. You will need multiple organizations to achieve.
Okay, so collective impact is what I take as a single theme where collaboratives can achieve something much beyond what one of them can do alone. Is that am I right in understanding that? It's oversimplified, but I'm just kind of trying to put it down in one kind of a.
No, you're absolutely right. I think the only thing I would add here is a small nuance between a collection of impact and collective impact. And this is, I'm borrowing Raghu's words on this. Many times collaborators I have seen will say, oh, we have 100 members, and then we'll add all of their impact and say, this is the collective impact. To us, it's a collection of impact, right? It's not collective impact. Collective impact means what we were doing together is at this level, and we put it together. But together, there is an additional exponential result that we have achieved because we have come together, right?
Okay.
And that is what I would call as, collective impact.
Okay. So tell me, for something like this to happen, there needs to be a trigger, or there is perhaps a need. What triggers this? I mean, how does this whole thing start? What is the real need behind collaboratives? How do they all form, and what have been some of these? What has been your learning in this?
At a very simplistic level, I would say either a danger or a threat brings out our fear complex and people start collaborating. Classic case is COVID, right? And when we set up the COVID Action Collaborative, I had 100 organizations signing up in 1 week because everybody was sure that we don't know what the hell is happening.
In fact, I want to come to that a little bit more in detail, because I think that's stupendous work that you guys have done. But yes, so that is one single common global threat. But anything else beyond that? Because that is a black swan event, right? Anything else?
The other is opportunity, the flip side of it, right? There is a big opportunity. Let us say USAID or DFID says we are going to put a bid together for $100 million to work on health system strengthening, right? No one organization can ever bid for it, right? And that's when you will find people coming together, forming consortiums and collaborators to, say that let's together look at this opportunity. To me, these seem to be the two ways. I mean, I would love to hear from the audience also if they've come across any other third way or the fourth way collaborators coming together. And the threats are also quite interestingly different, right? What I want to differentiate is, there's a question you had asked me when we were preparing, is that even a drug cartel is a good collaborative example, right? Even the bulb industry, when they came together and said, hey, we can't keep selling bulbs which will burn forever, then our sales will come down. Those are cartelizations for a negative public good. So one of the critical things in your question is, whether it's a threat or an opportunity, is it creating larger public? To me, at least in social development sphere, I would call it a collaborative then. Otherwise, it's a cartel if it is going to be for private or profit. Yeah.
Okay, understood. So what I really see is that there's huge benefits and huge impacts from collaborating. What's the real impact of not collaborating? Obviously, the flip side, right? But the opposite of the whole thing. What are the kind of opportunities you think you've seen lost because people didn't do this?
I think, the social development challenges are massive. Even today, as we sit here comfortably, probably sitting under a fan or a AC in a good room and talking this, there are hundreds of millions of people who still need to be lifted out of poverty, right? Lifted out is, said with the respect, not because they are down there. What have we actually been able to achieve? Government, of course, has done what it needs to do. But in the social sector, it's still islands of success, right? I mean, we keep talking about when will everything be like Amul? Have we built something like BRAC in Bangladesh, right? No. So that if you look at the scale of the problems and the complexity of the problems and our total efforts, there's a big gap, right? A, in terms of capability to do it, and B, in terms of resources to do it. What is the other option other than to collaborate? Right? If we don't, then we will have only smaller successes. So that is the first cost of not collaborating, right? We will not be able to reach scale. We will not also be able to impact deeper. Today, if you look at it, Vision Spring will sell glasses, right? Another, Narayan Netralia will do cataract surgeries, right? Every person has their own specialization. And imagine, look at it from the household point of view, right? Take a farmer. One fellow will give credit, another fellow will give input. Nothing is sequenced. Nothing is in a way it is friendly for the person to operate, unless it's again something like Amul, which manages the whole system, right? Therefore, the other thing is, if impact has to be deeper, it has to be sequenced, it has to be coordinated. So the second reason is that deep impact can be achieved only when you collaborate. And the third is sustainability, right? Look at everybody reaching the poorest. What is the cost of reaching? If that money was given to the poor, probably poverty would have been solved, right? So sustainability also comes through lower costs of operation, one of the elements, right? So if you look at scale, impact, and sustainability, collaboration will benefit in all three. And I think the core of social development is about scale, impact, and sustainability.
Yeah, understood. Why don't we see, I mean, what are the challenges? There must be some challenges that we don't see more of this happening, right? So what are the inherent, I would call derailers that prevent people from taking this very obvious way, which is better for the larger good, right? So what do you think? What has been your learning?
That's a great question, because if it is so obvious, why are more people not doing it? Number one. And I don't think anybody in this call will disagree with me if you say we need to collaborate for bigger impact, but still it doesn't happen, right?
Yes.
It doesn't happen naturally. And I think, I'm not trying to diagnose, but what I have seen in the sector, and I will not put myself beyond it. I'm not sitting on any high horse. I'm also equally guilty of some of the things I'm going to be sharing, right? Number one is this concept of logos and egos, right? This is my organization, this is my model, this is something we developed, we are the pioneers in this, is sometimes deleterious to collaboration, right? You can't say it's mine, and say, what are we doing as we, right? The I doesn't translate into we at any point in time. The second is the total resources required for social development. Forget environmental development. Social alone is 5 trillion. And then availability of money is around 1 trillion. If you have a gap like that, we are all forced to compete, right? There is not enough resources in the world for civil society to actually, dip into. And when you have that kind of shortage, you compete. It's very difficult to collaborate, right? Then third is you look across the world. You take BMGF, you take USAID, you take any of the donors with the big money, the capital providers. They want you to apply for RFPs as if they're procuring something, right? They're actually indirectly saying, please compete, right? So in many senses, that also creates that division. Why would I share my proposal with you, right? I'll try to write a proposal better than you so that I can get the money, right? That goes back to the competition. Then there is an element of lack of appreciation in our own society, right? How many times will I say that, oh, so-and-so organization is doing extremely well, or so-and-so person is very respected in the thing. Unless we don't feel threatened by them, we don't, right? And I call it 3Ds: dislike, disengage, and destroy. Dislike a person, but if you like them, you'll work with them. So the likability factor is very important in our culture. Then disengage. If I don't like you, I will disengage, right? I will not deal with you. How will I collaborate then, right? The worst case scenario is destroy, not destroy each other, that they may not be able to do, but they destroy the impact, right? The fact that I'm unable to collaborate, right? So this likability factor, I know you, you know me factor, is not good enough for collaborators. We have to go beyond that. We actually have to work with people we don't like, right? We'll have to put aside our differences and say there is a larger play here, right? Which we need to collaborate for. And we need to be also what we in Catalyst 20 call it humble but audacious, right? You have to be audacious in terms of what you want to do, but you have to be humble, right? Without the humility, just the audaciousness will bring in ego and arrogance, right? And the last point I want to make is this whole attribution nonsense, right? Many donors will say, what happened to my impact? What do you mean your impact? First of all, it is about the community's impact, right? So this need for saying, मैंने पैसा दिया है उसके वजह से क्या हुआ, right? Atul is on this call. We were dealing with a difficult donor yesterday, right? It's all about me and my work and my funding and therefore my impact. Whereas you're again talking about a complex system where you are only a drop in the ocean, where there are many other things which need to happen to make it work. So, I mean, in simple words, I put it as attribution arrogance versus collaborative contribution, right? Attribution arrogance is what I gave as example. Collaborative contribution is what have we been able to do that 1 + 1 = 11, right? I think that shift in thinking, if you're able to make it, it's not easy. I have not been able to collaborate all the time very well, I have to admit. But when you do that, I have seen magic happen.
Is there I just want to just ask, this is the right time, I think, to ask you. Therefore, is there some kind of, since you've done this with a fair amount of success and you're still on the journey, and I still want to talk about the COVID Action Collab, but we'll come to that in a bit. What would you define as is there a formula for success? I mean, I just want to ask. And I see a raised hand, and Sanjeev, I'll come to you. But I just want to ask Shiv this question. Is there some kind of a checklist of items that you think contribute to success if you were to want to set up a collaborative?
Yeah. No, Sanjeev, just a minute, boss. We'll come to you. No, I think there is no formula, Seema. What I've seen is that the right ingredients being in place. Let me talk about a couple of things which I've seen happen, not just in the collaborators I have been incubating, but also other collaborators I'm part of or I'm a member in. One is this whole motivation, either fear or worry or the opportunity, big opportunity, right? That seems to be one formula. The second formula is that are we able to bring the first set of core members who truly believe a larger purpose beyond their organizations exist, right? And actually seeing that, hey, there's something missing here, and I don't think I can do this. And I think you can do it, you can do it. I think we all need to come together to work this out. I think that initial core of organizations, no, it doesn't need to be large. It can be 3, 5, 10, who have open mind and ability to look at a new future and imagine something much bigger than all of them is important. The third thing which I've seen working out is what I call as collab canvas, right? It's like a canvas. It's like all of us have to paint, right? But each of us either are geographically limited or skill-wise limited or resource-wise limited, but we have strengths. What strength am I going to bring in? And what am I wanting to take out of this? That needs to be clear. We call it gives and takes, right? What am I willing to give? What am I willing to take? It cannot be a one-way street. We all know in IRMA, we've all done assignments together, right? The free rider thing won't work, right? So what are you willing to give? What are you willing to take? I think that needs to be very clearly rule-based. And then there is a lot of relationships, right? In that, what I mean is mutual respect, trust, fact that generosity. I find in collaborators, generosity is very important, right? Not competing with each other. Saying, hey, do you want to do this? I can do it, but would you like to do it, right? So I think that's a lot of soft elements, right? Leadership, that is another area.
Does it mean that, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, very last point is what I mentioned earlier, which is about the ability to create a ideate, take it to action. Collaborators don't work if it is talk shops. We need to see action. There has to be an action bias, right? Then learning, sitting down and say, hey, what worked, what didn't work, what do we need to tweak, change, throw out of the window, and celebrate. Publicly celebrate successes of members and what we've been able to do. I think these are what I would say is the formulas that we have seen work. Of course, I'm going to wanted to know what you think also.
I think this is a good, anyways, a good checklist for any good leadership, any good project and leadership of any good project. Am I also right in picking up that for collaboratives to work, the members who are setting it up should know each other well, and there should be enormous amount of trust and respect between each other? So is that in some way limiting, self-limiting? That if I don't know you really well, then getting together and making it work might take some time.
Yes and no. I think the initial set of members tend to be people who know each other, right? But I think the more rapidly we get other skill sets, other people coming in, and that's why I spoke about openness first, right? Openness to new knowledge, new experiences. For example, in the collaborators that I worked with, there are 23-year-old who have a startup on behavioral sciences coming in, and they're completely changing our thinking, the way we are looking at issues, right? But are we open? Are we being ageist by saying, yeah, just a startup here, come on, what are you looking at, right? So one of the important elements I missed out is this whole multidisciplinary thinking, right, at an ideation level. For example, when we had this plastic challenge during COVID, we were using PPEs and masks and all of that. 40,000 tons of plastic was generated, right? Only in India. What do you do with it? So we got together in our collaborative, we got a multidisciplinary team. There was even a yoga teacher sitting there, and people are saying, what's a yoga teacher going to do with plastic, right? And that ideation of 3 to 4 sessions that we had led to the solution that why don't we use plastic as a fuel, actually pyrolyze it and use that oil in the generator in the hospital, right? Pyrolysis is a very old solution, nothing new, right? We were actually burning the plastic, right, as per the government rules, right? We were anyway, noxious gases are emitting out of it. In pyrolysis, that is all reduced, right? And therefore, this is the solution. This solution couldn't have come unless we had a multidisciplinary team. Engineers in this call will say, hey, I would have found the solution, right? But, it's important that multidisciplinary teams tend to think differently. So that's another formula I would add to that.
Yeah. Can I request Sanjeev? I think I see a raised hand, and the host, if you can just unmute Sanjeev Kumar.
Good evening, everyone. So this is Sanjeev from PRM41. After passing out from IRMA, I joined GT, and I'm currently working with collectives, basically women FPC. So, sir, you talked everything about coming from a institutional level. But sir, when I am working, I'm still trying to understand what exactly the problem is. But I'll try to ask. I'm working since last 2 years, sir, and the women with whom I'm working, they were previously being supported by Pradhan, and they had formed a federation, and they are doing quite well. When basically we look at the financial uh, capabilities, they have formed SHGs, federations, and they are doing quite well. But when we have formed agriculture cooperatives in terms of FPC, what I find is even though they see that uh, collectives can have a better future, they can achieve something. There is a lot of conflict when you uh, do something, and the conflict is more when money is involved, and also when activity is involved where there can be a monetary benefit. And also, sir, there are activities where you will find that it's beneficial for everyone, but only there are few takers to it. So how do you resolve those at the community level, sir?
Thanks, Sanjeev. I want to use your question to differentiate two things. Collective of people is different from collective of organizations, right? You agree with me, right?
Yes, sir.
The problem you are posing is related to collective of people. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So, I mean, all Irmans here, we all watched the Manthan movie, right? That's how we probably began understanding social dynamics and why people work with each other, financial incentives, our great, what's that game, Seema, that we all played?
Narayanpur Express.
Narayanpur Express.
Yeah.
Narayanpur Express, okay. I'm still a South Indian, can't get all of these correctly. So, the kind of social dynamics and economic dynamics, Sanjeev, of individuals, there's a lot of theory and practice around it. What I want to focus today is on how organizations come together and work with each other, right? Now, organizations also have leaders, right? They coming together is also poses another level of challenge, which is what I think Chidambaram was pointing out.
Yeah.
Hi, Chidambaram. Lovely to see you here. If I'm not wrong, I did my internship with Chidambaram. So the whole issue there about individual dynamics and dynamism is a lot to do with social theory, right? Whereas when you take collaboratives of institutions and organizations, it is about OD, what we call as organization development, plus individual behavior, right? So it's a combination of both, which is actually quite complex. And that's why, Chidambaram, to address your point, I would say that people who are thinking not alike or even dislike each other should be got into a room. But you need an honest facilitator who's trusted, who has the gravitas. You need a larger purpose. Both the people who don't agree with each other is still seeing that we need to achieve this. If not together, even separately, but at least they are willing to start a conversation, right? Only then people who not think alike or are very different can actually come together, is what I have seen. Again, I'm not a super expert in this area, but what I have managed to do through our collaborators and my leaders is to bring completely different types of people together and co-build something. And also sometimes people not agreeing with each other at all. And to Sanjeev's point, where financial incentives are there. In the field of HIV, Seema, you know our work, right? When there was at one point in time, India raised $300 million from Global Fund. And we had 200 plus organizations we had to bring together under one umbrella and one program, right? We managed to do it. And these were not people who were alike each other at all. And there was LGBTQ communities on one side, people living with HIV on the other, then government people on the other, but we managed to bring it together. It's possible. And I will go back to the formulas, which to your question that you said to answer it. So, Sanjeev, I'm not avoiding your question, but I want to focus today on the organization and institutions, buddy.
Yeah, okay, no issue, sir.
Okay, great. I think we will need some more time for questions. We'll do that towards the end. I have one part that I wanted to bring on, and that is bring on the work that you referred to it, which is on the COVID Action Collab. COVID hit us in 2020 and things changed, and it was a global threat. And you put together the COVID Action Collab team, and something brilliant came out of it. I'm sure there has been a lot of learning, and that today I think you call it Community Action Collab. Could you kind of share your insights on how did this idea come to you? What were you trying to achieve? And what has been the learning at the end of it all?
Yeah, so again, it was a big threat, right? And the real challenge was, we were honestly feeling very threatened. Will we even exist as an organization post-COVID? Luckily, we had worked on public health, so we had a huge advantage in that sense, and we had advance notice by 3 to 4 months that we are going to have something very big coming our way, and we felt it's our opportunity to step up. Right. And because we've worked with around 1,000 plus organizations, very small NGOs and CPOs to large organizations, we said, can we, in fact, literally, Seema, we didn't even know what it is going to be, right? We said COVID Action Collab, we would like to come together and together work on response to COVID. Now, why did we say this? Because when tsunami hit, we were on the front line, right, in terms of relief and rehabilitation, like many of you in this call may have been. But post tsunami, everything disappeared. All the support structures, all the consortiums, collaborative just fell apart. Now we are thinking if there's another emergency like tsunami, we have to build it all over again. So that's why we said COVID Action Collab will be a platform for all emergencies, right? So the first thing we did was to bring everybody together and said, can we all protect ourselves and our staff? So we started issuing advisories from our public health unit, Swasti, on PPE, on self-protection. All of that became a norm later, but we were the first to issue those for the civil societies that we worked with. In a matter of 2.5 months, we had 380 organizations sign up, right? All across India, literally covering every part of India. Huge responsibility on us as Secretariat to help them. And we had 2 core funders who came forward and said, if so many organizations are working, we would like to work through you. So we started vaccination. The minute COVID vaccine was available, we reached 25 million people only because of the collaborator. If CMS alone had done this, we probably would have done 50,000 or 1 lakh, right? 25 million we were able to do, right? The second thing we did is sewage surveillance. We launched it in Bangalore, where we were able to give government 7 to 10 days advance notice of outbreak in any one of the locality. Rather than sealing all localities, they were able to take the call one by one. The plastic example I gave you, converting plastic into pyrolyzing and converting it into oil. So there are several such initiatives which are born. And the other one which was really interesting is this high impact, what did we call, high impact package that we developed, which is we rapidly screen the communities the members are working with for hypertension, for diabetes, and for one more condition, anemia. Because if you had any one or more than one, and many poor people have at least 2, right, you are more susceptible to death from COVID, right? So we were able to screen those people and first of all isolate them wherever possible, and the vaccination became available. We put them on vaccine first. So these were the kind of things the collaborator was able to do at scale, and donors came in, and we eventually 380 members got $110 million of funding. We did not keep a single paisa or rupee or a dollar with us. We did not play an intermediary role. We said if fund is available for ground level NGOs, give it directly. Right? So those are some of the things we were able to do. But then after the COVID was over, actually we had what we called as the 10 million event in Delhi. And I did announce there saying that we have achieved all of this together. And I think it's time to wrap up, right? We have done our job together. And that's when members got up and said, you can't take the decision. It's all our collaborative. I think we should continue this because the next emergency of climate is just around the corner. So we should push ahead, and we should now continue to operate as Community Action Collab. Now what we do, Seema, is a very interesting thing. We call it the wartime and peacetime, right? The wartime is around the corner. And we are already seeing, right? Many of us are seeing the heat wave and flooding. So we are ready for that. We are already responded to 9 emergencies, one in Chennai flooding, the train accident in Odisha. These are still small, in terms of numbers. But when the climate change hits us in big way, the collaborative is ready, right? We issued the heat wave advisory, which government of Karnataka has taken over, and they plan to distribute it, right? We are seeing flipping. Districts which had heat waves earlier are going to be flooded now. And those who are flooded are going to have heat waves. Some of them are going to have both in the climate change scenario. So we are ready in 52 districts how our partners and governments will respond, how to support the government in doing it. And the other thing is peacetime. Peacetime is now, right? We don't have any major emergencies. But if you take any poor household, they have a wartime. And that's why we say in the peacetime, our communities' resilience need to be built because they can be much worse off when the climate crisis or any other humanitarian crisis hits us. So yeah, I think the Community Action Collab 380 partners all across India working on resilience of vulnerable families and readying ourselves to spring back to action in case of an emergency.
So has anybody tried to copy your model? I think we call it copying is the best form of flattery, right? So if you have been successful, are there others who are trying to copy you, or is the entry barrier really very high for that to happen?
I don't know. In social development, I feel every time somebody copies, it's not only a compliment. Maybe I'm copying somebody else. I don't know, right? So I don't know. I do know there are other collaborators. There are some excellent examples. I'm part of also Catalyst 2030, which is a 190 countries social entrepreneurs gathering. I'm a big fan of the collaborative. I'm in their board in India and globally, all of that. I feel, Seema, rather than copying, I think we can all learn from each other. And that learning is definitely, I think that's the format I would say for social development, which is appropriate.
Great. I think before we just open up the space for questions, Shruti, is that okay? I just want to ask the last question. How can you have a thriving IRMA community, all youngsters? I don't like to call ourselves old, but then when you say PRM 41 and we are PRM 10, I think it's obvious that the 30 batches have gone after us. So what can we how do you think all these people can collaborate, participate in the work that you are doing? The COVID, not the community action collab, the collaborative that you run.
I have only one ask from all the colleagues who have spent the afternoon listening to my views. And Seema, thank you for asking the right questions. I would say join Community Action Collaborative. You can join as an individual, you can join as an organization. We are very flexible in the format. Let's join together in doing something for emergency response and be ready for it. Even though you may look like there's no big emergency now, it'll come. And at that time, we can't run around and ask each other, right? So join CAC is what I would say. And if, or join any other collaborator, Catalyst 2030 or, RCRC, there are many collaborators, right? So please join one of the collaborators, play a role, right? And if not, you start your collaborative. If you feel after listening to all of this, hey, I want to start my own collaborative on design or whatever other areas that you look like, please do. And reach out to me. I'm happy to share lessons and provide any input or work, or even join your collaborative in doing what we need to do. So, yep, believe in collaboratives. Not easy, painful sometimes, but when you see the kind of exponential results that we saw, it's well worth it. The pain is well worth it. That's all. One request: join a collaborator like us, or you start your collaborative.
And is that the link that you have just shared in the chat box for everyone?
That's right. I'll also put down our, our overall organization, the Catalyst Group, which is proudly IRMAN, born out of 3 IRMANs and, still happily chugging on our 30th anniversary. We have a massive event in Delhi called the Catalyzing Social Impact. I will share it with the IRMA network on that also. And I know you're going to open up for questions. I'll take Chidambaram's question along with that.
Yeah, so I think let's just open it up. Shruti, is that fine? We open it up for questions, if any?
Yes.
And
Sure.
yeah. And yes, and we do have one question from Chidambaram, so you may, I think, answer that, Shiv, before others, if others.
Yeah, and KK is also here, my ex-colleague and senior airman, so he's also put up his hand. KK, coming back to you. Quickly, Chidambaram, yeah, unequal partners, I think all partnerships within collaboratives, if you see, there are inequality and power structures which definitely are there. I personally believe it's possible if we respect each other and if we have specific roles that we are playing, and if we are able to negotiate that the power is not pushing somebody down, but actually helping the unequal partner do better. If this sounds like romance, yes, it is. Okay. But has this happened is the question I will ask. I think it has happened many times over in collaboratives. And not only in our collaborative, I've seen that happen elsewhere. Just want to tell you one beautiful story. There was a small NGO with, I think, 6 people in Kadapa who was part of our community action collaborative. And he had come to Delhi for our event using his own money, traveled by train all the way to Delhi, right? And I said, why? What drives you to be part of the collaborative? He said, look, what I do is in one half of one block in Kadapa. Okay, Kadapa is a district in Andhra. He said, but I feel I am part of something bigger. I feel I have contributed to something bigger. And I feel I found my home in a larger family of people who are also have the same struggles as me. But also it brings joy to me that I'm part of something much, much larger than the small constraints that I deal with in Kadapa, right? It's a great example of how that partner is very small, but finds a space. But we have to create that space.
Yeah.
KK?
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, see.
Shiv, first of all, I really admire your work. I follow you. That's why I'm here also today. I need a little views from you. Like when we started corporate social responsibility on 1st April 2014, the basic structure we thought was let the government do the legislation, let corporate come with professional capability and funds, and let the NGOs implement it because they are at the grassroots. We wanted all three to collaborate with each other. I think we have been successful the tune of 30-40% by now. Like different platforms were made by CII, FICCI. Most of them are not working now. I need your views. How do we take it further? Where really collaboration between the three partners is not happening. And since I work with academia now, we are not able to understand it fully. Or we are not doing even enough research or investigation into it.
Yeah.
To you, Shiv.
No, absolutely. I think, KK, one of the things about the CSR law is what is voluntary versus what is legislated, right? CSR is a legislated one, right? And this is like pulling a thread and pushing a thread. When you push a thread, it will go thus far. But it was important. It was an important legislation which pushed corporates to give. Now, one challenge I will pose to something you said is that corporates have to bring their professional experience and money, right? I think civil society is not unprofessional, and I know you will agree with me on that,
Yeah.
right? I think the corporatization of civil society is also a very worrying thing because there is an assumption that NGOs don't know what they are doing; they are unprofessionally run, and it's a hodgepodge operation. We need to bring in professionalism. I know you're not saying it. I'm just saying that some of the CSRs tend to look at it like that. And civil society also think every private sector person is a thug, thief, and a robber, is out to make only money and has no heart at all. Neither of this we know is true. But when you have that kind of attitude, collaborating is very tough, right? One is looking, and this is the point Chidambaram was also making, right? When you don't respect each other, collaboration is next to impossible. Right? Any relationship is impossible. So what I would say is a huge dose of humility and understanding. KK, we were all taken to a village and thrown there. Dr. Koo, what he thought is that unless we experience firsthand the lack of toilet, the lack of food, right, we are not going to learn. Poverty is not something you can read about, right?
Yes.
I think without that humility, I think CSR staff typically, sometimes HR rejects, right, who are put there and are rehabilitated there. Poor things. I mean, I'm not at all judging them. They may be great people, right? But they don't have the experience and this thing to really understand. And then the collaboration is very, very, okay, I'll give you money, you do this work. That needs to change, KK. And people like you need to bring bridge these worlds to respect each other, first of all. And just very quickly, Seema, if you'll allow me one example, right? When can I?
Yes, please.
To KK's point, during vaccination, KK, what we found is government said we don't need any help. Okay, but the most vulnerable people in remote villages were not getting the vaccines. NGOs are saying we can mobilize them, but we don't get the vaccine, right? Then the private sector was saying we are willing to fund. We brought them together. We created a format, right? The format was that we will sit with the district DHO and ask him or her, what is your issues in reaching the remote villages and the vulnerable people? And they would list it out. They knew it, right? Some people will say, I don't have vehicle. Some people say, I have vehicle, I don't have fuel. Some people say, I don't have enough nurses. Vaccine ka shortage nahi tha. Okay. Some people say, I don't have a data entry person to put it in COVID. So we literally took each district, each block, and we said, what can private sector do here? What can civil society do here? What can government do here? And then we created that formula, and then we literally rolled it out in district after district. We were able to reach 25 million in a matter of 8 months, right? With government, with private sector, and with civil society. Right? Everybody was clear about what I called about the 5 R's. The results were clear, roles were clear, relationship was set, rules were there, and then it all rolled out. And we gave money, $1 for every person vaccinated.
Okay.
It was results based. If I see this person in Povin, then I will pay you, right? That's it. Then magic actually happened, KK. I know it is much easier to do it in vaccination. I'm just giving it as an example, but I believe formats have to be created like this. And it's people like you who should help us in this, sir.
Sure. I'm always there. Back to you, Seema.
Thank you. Yeah, so we do have a last question perhaps, and before we actually end. So we have a question from Shruti.
Yes.
For you, Shiv, say, yeah, it's in the chat
this
box.
is my colleague rolling a...
Yeah.
Shruti, hi.
Hello.
I think, hi. There is a number of ways we can judge the collaborative. One is member activism. How many active members are there? How much are they contributing? The second way we measure the collaborative is how many gives and takes have actually happened. For example, Seema, in the COVID Action Collab, by the time we finished the 3 years, we had 650 partnerships were born out of it, right? Out of the 380 organizations, 650 areas of work which started off and succeeded, right? The third is the differential between the collection and the collective, Shruti, what I was mentioning, right? Each of us are doing X, Y, Z, but then there is together we have done the delta. That's another impact I generally look at, right? So these are some of the areas I would say. I would also definitely look at resources. How much resources have we been jointly able to bring in? How much of government money have we been able to leverage? For example, Community Action Collab managed to raise, Seema, 1,800 crores from the government, moved from the government to the communities. Right?
Wow.
So these are some of the success parameters, I would say.
Thanks, Shiv.
So I think with that, I am aware that we are at the 6 o'clock mark. If there are any more questions or queries, I think I invite you to mail it to Shiv, and maybe he can take it on with you separately. Many thanks for everyone, each one of you who could join. And so back to Shruti. Before that, Shiv, if you can make your last remarks. Yeah.
No, one last remark. Thank you, Seema, for doing this interview. You are one of the sutradhars for all of this work, the founder of CMS in many ways. Thank you for being such a amazingly strong supporter of all the work we've done right from the beginning. Thank you.
Most welcome. Most welcome. It's always been a pleasure.
Very good, Shiv, Seema, and all fantastic session. And Shiv, you taught us new concepts. So very nice and a very interesting way to look about the same thing in a very different social perspective. Thank you so much.
So Shiv, if you could just paste your email ID also in the chat window.
Done.
Sure. Thank you so
Back
much.
to you, Shruti.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting both of us on this call. Yeah, back to you.
My pleasure, ma'am. So as we wrap up this insightful session, I would like to take a moment on behalf of IAA to express heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Shiv Kumar for sharing his expertise and experiences with us today. Your talk was incredibly informative, sir, and I especially loved your checklist around definition of success. Also, I thank today's moderator, Seema, for wonderfully facilitating this session. We are grateful for your efforts in making this session both engaging and productive. I thank audience for giving us something as valuable as your time. And we'll also be uploading this recording on YouTube so that those of us who could not attend the session will get access to today's rich discussion. With your due permission, I would now close this session. Thank you very much.
Do you want to go and leave? PRM 10 will stay back. I can see Kapoor, Atul, I can see Soma. We can have a batch meeting and then close.
Sure,
Yeah, PRM 10 can stay back. Others can leave if you wish. Yes.
I'll stop recording before we start.
Thank